A lot changed. A lot has changed since the last time we talked to you. A lot has changed for the Ohio State.
Ari got married.
That would be less shocking than what happened to Ohio State on Saturday in a 17-14 loss to Michigan State. Should we have seen this coming? I think a lot of people spent the whole year figuring that Ohio State was playing down to its competition, figuring that when they needed it, Ohio State would flip a switch, figuring that, for instance, facing a bad pass defense for Michigan State, a pass offense for the Buckeyes that really hadn't worked the whole year would suddenly work, and all of that was wrong. Whatever problems you saw for the first 10 games were real. Should we have seen this coming, Bill Landis, as we think about this Ohio State loss? We're going to think about a lot about what's ahead for Ohio State, but reflect. Were you shocked by what unfolded Saturday, or did it make you think about the past a little differently?
Both, which I know is kind of a weird answer. I'm not surprised that Ohio State lost, even though I picked Ohio State to win big. I think the thought that, like you said, they've been playing down to their opponent all year certainly seems more real now. I did not envision Ohio State coming out onto this field and having 132 yards of total offense against anybody. I don't care if you're playing Alabama. Ohio State having that kind of offensive day was shocking. The thing that maybe surprised me more than that was the fact that the defense, which has been so good all year, was put into a spot 3 times to get a stop, twice after Ohio State scored, and then the third time on the final drive of the game, and they didn't do it. So both. I think that the way that the offense played was not at all what I expected, but the loss is not completely unexpected to me.
And quick answer on this. In a 17-14 loss, you figure that's on the offense. They held them to 17. But do you think the defense is culpable for this loss in some ways too?
Yeah, a little bit. I think the thing people will point to is the time of possession. It was 38-22 in favor of Michigan State, but the fact that you were put on the field to get stops and you didn't do it, it's partly your fault too.
45 plays. Ohio State ran 45 plays. They averaged 69 plays a game coming in. 45 plays is a remarkable number, and that's what happens when you can't get first downs. Ari Wasserman, does this change anything about how you view the first 10 games of the year, knowing what happened in this game?
I think that I think the three of us have been pretty rational about the first 10 games all year. And it's like you play down to the opponent excuses just played out, especially if there was only one really good game all year instead of just a few bad ones. That was the norm. So I think that it's interesting because they lost all trust in JT to throw the ball downfield. They made him they put more emphasis on him as a runner than Ezekiel Elliott. I'm not shocked because I haven't seen them play all that great all year. And the thing that's more shocking is what is wrong? Why is it different? Why did the team that we thought was going to average 50 points a game this year, were they bad for a lot of the year for the standard that they set for themselves? And the answer is hard to the receivers, is that the line went backwards. I mean, they returned everybody except 2 guys, right? And that's the hardest thing to really wrap your head around, more so than I'm not necessarily surprised. I am surprised they lost, but I think that the season that we watched kind of led up to this. What I am surprised about is why, and the explanation as to why you could return that many people and not be as good as you were, or at least be a shell of what you were.
They have the best players. They still have the best players. I think they have the best players in the country, and they're not the best team. And that is confusing because they also have a great coach. So that is the thing that is hard to wrap your head around, but this is also why you question a team when they win. This is why you try to investigate things and you don't just say, well, they won, that's it. Well, they won. What do you want? They won. Because you're thinking about this day. And so I think in retrospect, you did see it coming. It's like and I wrote this earlier this year, that the faith you had in Ohio State was not based on this year. It was based on last year. It was based on Urban Meyer having 3 rings. It was based on them having 5, 6, 7 guys who might be first-round draft picks in the spring. It was not based on what you saw. And what happened against Michigan State, that was based on what you saw. That was not about NFL draft talent. That was not about a legendary coach with 3 rings. That was about a team that wasn't good enough. And in retrospect, I think you did see it coming.
I think we are looking forward to exploring why.
Why do they have good players
And why? Yeah.
And they're not a good team.
How do you return basically everybody offensively? And I understand that the 2 wide receivers were a loss. I mean, there's no question that Devin Smith is a deep threat and Evan Spence is a blocker. But it shouldn't go from those 2 guys to 132 yards against a banged-up defense. I mean, Michigan State's good, but it wasn't the Michigan State from last year. They lit that team up last year. It's just hard to wrap your mind around.
568 total yards against Michigan State last year. And I want to add this. I just said they're not a good team. They are a good team. They're a very good team. And as much as we sort of poke holes in them when they're really good, let me say this about the first loss in the Big Ten regular season in the Urban Meyer era. This is a fantastic football program with fantastic players and a fantastic coach. Everybody loses sometime. And before we got out of the press conference after the game, I asked Urban Meyer that because I wanted to hear what Urban Meyer said about that. So if you're an Ohio State fan, obviously you're disappointed. This is ridiculous. This run is ridiculous. Urban Meyer's lost 4 games in 4 years. This program's not going anywhere, but this loss was big, and in the end, not exactly a shock. He's Bill Landis. He's Ari Wasserman. I'm Doug Maurice. Thanks for sticking with us at cleveland.com. And guess what? We're still covering the Michigan game. Some of the reporters after the game were like, I don't even want to go to Michigan. Dude, win or lose, we're covering the Buckeyes.
0-10 or 10-0, we're there.
See you next week.